Creating a project budget. Project: building a custom pro-modified dragster for Bruce Wayne, 2025 racing season. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC, has been contracted by legendary action hero, Bruce Wayne, to design and build a custom pro-modified race car for the 2025 racing season. Wayne, known for his relentless drive and competitive spirit, desires a car capable of achieving a dominating sub-3.3-second ET, elapsed times, in the 8th mile. Budget breakdown. 1. Research Development, R&D. Analyze historical data from previous pro-modified builds at LJRC, focusing on record-breaking designs that achieved sub-3.5-second ETs. $7,000. Research and evaluate cutting-edge materials used in military applications for potential weight reduction and performance enhancement, for example, experimental titanium alloys. $3,000. Total R&D costs, $10,000. 2. Design engineering. Develop cutting-edge 3D CAD models incorporating lightweight military-grade materials and aggressive aerodynamic design for maximum downforce. $15,000. Design and engineer custom high-performance components specific to Wayne's car, such as a next-generation suspension system designed to handle extreme horsepower and a lightweight, high-strength drivetrain optimized for rapid acceleration. $10,000. Total design engineering costs, $25,000. 3. Fabrication. Purchase high-quality materials like chromoly steel tubing exceeding typical specifications and aerospace-grade titanium sourced from reputable military suppliers. $50,000. Fabricate the chassis and other custom components with meticulous precision using advanced techniques like robotic welding for unmatched strength and weight savings. $70,000. Total fabrication costs, $120,000. 4. Powertrain drivetrain. Source and purchase a top-of-the-line, custom-built racing engine block and cylinder heads, exceeding typical pro-modified specifications for unmatched horsepower output. $45,000. Select and acquire a racing transmission capable of handling the monstrous power output of Wayne's engine, reinforced with custom gear sets for unparalleled durability. $20,000. Purchase a heavy-duty, custom-built rear-end assembly specifically designed for pro-modified drag racing, featuring ultra-lightweight, high-strength components. $25,000. Total powertrain drivetrain costs, $90,000. 5. Assembly installation. Assemble the chassis, engine, transmission, and drivetrain components with meticulous care and attention to detail by LJRC's most experienced technicians. $30,000. Install and configure all that necessary cutting-edge electrical systems, a high-performance, custom-built fuel delivery system, and state-of-the-art safety equipment exceeding NHRA regulations. $15,000. Total assembly installation costs, $45,000. 6. Testing tuning. Conduct initial shakedown runs at a secluded drag strip with extensive safety measures to evaluate the car's performance and identify any areas for improvement under Wayne's supervision. $8,000. Fine-tune the engine, suspension, and drivetrain for unparalleled performance, aiming to achieve a sub-3.3-second ET during testing. $5,000. Total testing tuning costs, $13,000. 7. Contingency buffer. Allocate a 7% contingency buffer to account for unforeseen expenses, potential material cost fluctuations, or last-minute modifications requested by Wayne. $50,450. Calculated based on the total project cost excluding contingency. Total project budget, $353,450. Measurable success metrics. Stay within the allocated project budget of $353,450. Achieve a sub-3.3-second ET in the 8th mile during test runs at the secluded drag strip. Deliver the completed race car to Bruce Wayne by the agreed-upon deadline, exceeding his expectations for performance and design. Secure a minimum of 5 wins throughout the 2025 anything on 28s and anything on 275 racing season, establishing Wayne as a dominant force in the competition. Conclusion. This scenario outlines a detailed project budget breakdown for building a one-of-a-kind pro-modified race car for Bruce Wayne at Larry Jeffers Race Cars. By leveraging cutting-edge technologies, military-grade materials, and LJRC's championship-winning engineering expertise, This video explains how to create a project budget and the importance of keeping it updated throughout the project lifecycle. Key steps. Review historical data, analyze costs from similar past projects to understand potential expenses. Leverage experts, Consult with colleagues or external professionals for insights and estimations. Bottom-up approach. Break down the project into tasks. Estimate costs for each task, including materials, resources, labor, and add them together. Confirm accuracy. Double-check all cost estimates for accuracy. Set baseline. Establish a baseline amount to compare against to measure project progress and success. Continuously revisit and update. Regularly review and adjust the budget based on project developments. Additional tips. Break the project down into tasks for a more thorough budget. Obtain quotes from vendors for accurate cost estimations. Include contingency plans for unexpected costs. Create a planned cost versus actual cost column to track spending. Use budget templates to streamline the process. Important notes. The goal is to minimize the gap between estimated and final project costs. Be prepared to recalibrate estimations as the project progresses. The final project cost may differ from the estimated cost. Review past project costs to improve future estimations. Key steps. Review historical data. The scenario mentions analyzing historical data from previous Pro-modified builds to identify successful designs for achieving sub 3.5 second ETs. Leverage experts. LJRC's championship-winning engineering expertise is highlighted throughout the story. Bottom-up approach. A detailed breakdown of costs is provided for each stage of the project, from RD to testing tuning. Confirm accuracy. While not explicitly stated, the high level of detail suggests careful cost estimations. Set baseline. The total project budget of $353,450 serves as the baseline for tracking project progress. Continuously revisit and update. The contingency buffer allows for adjustments if unforeseen expenses arise or modifications are requested. Additional tips. Break the project down into tasks. The budget breakdown clearly separates costs for RD, design engineering, fabrication, etc. Obtain quotes from vendors. Though not directly mentioned, acquiring quotes for materials like titanium and custom parts is likely factored into the estimations. Include contingency plans. A 7% contingency buffer is allocated to address unexpected costs. Create a planned cost versus actual cost column. While not included in this scenario, this could be a future refinement for tracking spending. Use budget templates. Not mentioned, but the detailed breakdown suggests a well-defined budgeting process might be in place. Overall, the story incorporates the key steps and additional tips to create realistic and comprehensive project budget for building a custom Pro-modified race car. How to use digital spreadsheets. In this course, you will be completing activities using a variety of digital spreadsheet templates. Spreadsheets are a valuable tool for storing and analyzing information. In project management, spreadsheets are frequently used to organize, track, and visualize project tasks and budget details. They're also useful for collaborating with team members, analyzing project data, and creating charts. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, Budget Spreadsheet Example. This example uses Larry Jeffers Race Cars, a race car company, to showcase creating a real budget spreadsheet with additional details, drop-down lists, category, income, service, product sales, other, expense, parts, salary, rent, utilities, marketing, travel, other, conditional formatting, data bars, income, green data bar, minimum equals 0, maximum equals your average monthly income goal expense. Red data bar, minimum equals 0, maximum equals your average monthly expense. Budget Scenario 1, tight budget month. Larry Jeffers Race Cars is in the middle of a parts upgrade for car number 23. This is a significant expense, putting a strain on the June budget. Estimated monthly income, $15,000, service, product sales, estimated monthly expenses, $10,000, parts, salary, rent, utilities, marketing. June 17th transaction. Engine parts for car number 23, $2,547.32, June 17th transaction, customer payment for car number 15 repair, $3,800, running balance, minus $1,294.64, after both transactions, category total, parts, $2,547.32. Month focus progress. Data bars show a high expense for parts in June, exceeding the budgeted amount. Red bar extends beyond the maximum limit. Income data bar might be short of the goal. Green bar doesn't reach the maximum limit. Action. Larry Jeffers Race Cars might need to delay non-critical parts purchases or reduce marketing spending in June to stay within the budget. Scenario 2, buffer month. Larry Jeffers Race Cars has a customer prepaying for a race car build, car number 24. This creates a buffer in the June budget. Estimated monthly income, $15,000, service, product sales, plus $20,000, prepayment for car number 24, equals $35,000. Estimated monthly expenses, $10,000, parts, salary, rent, utilities, marketing. June transaction, prepayment received for car number 24, $20,000. Running balance, $25,252.68, after prepayment, category total, not applicable for prepayment. Month focus progress, data bars show a healthy surplus in June, green income bar exceeds the maximum limit, red expense bar might not reach the maximum limit. Action, Larry Jeffers race cars can use this buffer to invest in additional inventory or marketing for future growth. Additional tips, track inventory levels and factor them into the budget. Use separate accounts for business and personal expenses. Regularly review and update the budget based on your financial situation. These scenarios showcase how a budget spreadsheet with Larry Jeffers race cars specific details can help manage cash flow and make informed financial decisions. Remember to customize the categories, income, expense amounts, and data bar limits to suit your business's needs. Creating a budget spreadsheet, create a table with headers for month, date, description, category, income, debit, and running balance. Format the table with alternating row colors and preferred date format. Add drop-down lists in the category column for income and expense types. Format the income, debit, and running balance columns as currency. Calculating running balance, enter your starting balance in the running balance column. Use the sum formula to calculate the running balance for each row, considering income and debits. Adding progress bars, create additional columns for category totals and a month focus cell. Use the SUMIFS formula to calculate the total income and expenses for the chosen month and category. Apply conditional formatting, data bars, to the income and expense columns with appropriate colors. Set minimum and maximum values for the data bars based on your budget goals. Tips and tricks, use absolute cell references in formulas to ensure they update correctly when copied. Customize the spreadsheet with borders, fonts, and formatting for better presentation. Change the month focus cell to see progress bars and budget tracking for different months. Creating a real budget spreadsheet, list monthly expenses, create a table with categories like rent, utilities, groceries, and car payment. Include a row for the total monthly expenses. Estimate spending, fill in each category with an estimated amount you spend per month. You can calculate gas expenses by multiplying fill-ups per month by cost per fill-up. Non-monthly expenses, create a separate section for expenses you pay less frequently, like car registration or yearly memberships. Include a row for the total non-monthly expenses. Yearly versus monthly breakdown, divide the non-monthly total by 12 to see the monthly equivalent of these expenses. Track monthly spending, add columns for each month, January, February, etc., where you can record your actual spending throughout the month for each category. Calculate totals, use formulas to automatically calculate the total spending per category for each month and a grand total for all expenses. Income, add a section for your total income per month. Leftover, pay yourself fun money, calculate leftover amount by subtracting total expenses from total income. Decide on a fixed amount or percentage to set aside as savings, pay yourself, and the remaining amount for fun money. Additional tips, multiple bank accounts, open 4 accounts, 1 checking for income, 1 checking for spending, fun money, 1 savings for pay yourself, savings goals, and another savings for non-monthly expenses, set aside. Change your identity, view yourself as someone who prioritizes saving and actively manages money. Focus on increasing income, look for ways to earn more money alongside managing your expenses. Customizing your Larry Jeffers Race Cars Budget Spreadsheet. Here's how to customize your spreadsheet to track Larry Jeffers Race Cars finances. Locate and open the template, go to Google Sheets and search for Monthly Budget Spreadsheet. Alternatively, under Personal in the Template Gallery, find a budget template. Start with a clean slate, rename the spreadsheet to something specific, like Larry Jeffers Race Cars, June 2024 budget. Delete the sample amounts in the transactions and summary sheets. Keep the rows for future transactions. If needed, add more rows, 1,000 for transactions, 1,000 for summaries. Customize a sample monthly budget. In the summary sheet, set the starting balance to 0. Delete the sample transactions for common expenses. Fixed expenses for Larry Jeffers Race Cars. Instead of rent or paycheck, Larry Jeffers Race Cars likely has fixed costs like shop rent, $2,500 per month, utilities, $500 per month loan payment, car hauler, $750 per month. Create a new sheet named Fixed Expenses and list these costs with their categories. Summary sheet updates. In the summary sheet, change the first expense category to Fixed Expenses. Enter the total amount from the Fixed Expenses sheet, around $3,750. Rename the remaining expense and income categories, up to row 41, to suit Larry Jeffers' race cars needs. Here are some examples: expense categories, parts inventory, salaries wages, travel, race events, marketing advertising, insurance. Income categories, race car service revenue, parts sales, sponsorship deals. Adding more expense categories, highlight the last expense row, for example, row 41. Drag the blue handle down to duplicate the row 9 times, for a total of 10 new expense rows. Update the data validation rule in the category drop-down menu to include the new rows. Set the range to match the last row number in the summary sheet, for example, row 50. Making copies for each month. To create a new budget for the next month, go to File, greater than Make a Copy. Rename the copy for the upcoming month, for example, Larry Jeffers Race Cars, July 2024 budget. Plan spending and track expenses. In the summary sheet, enter planned spending amounts in the planned column for each expense category. Enter income estimates in the income side of the summary sheet, for example, expected service revenue, parts sales. Use the transactions sheet to track daily expenses throughout the month. Enter the date, amount, description, and category for each transaction, for example, June 18th, $1,200, engine oil change, parts inventory. The spreadsheet will automatically update the actual column in the summary sheet to reflect Larry Jeffers race cars spending. Additional tips: use the Google Sheets mobile app to track expenses on the go, for example, recording parts purchases at a race event. This customized spreadsheet allows Larry Jeffers race cars to effectively manage their finances by planning and tracking expenses. Categorizing race car-related expenses helps identify areas for potential cost savings. Monitoring income. Keeping track of income streams, service revenue, parts sales, sponsorships, provides insights into financial health. Projectant future balances. By comparing planned income and expenses, Larry Jeffers race cars can anticipate future financial situations and make informed decisions. Remember to update the spreadsheet regularly and adjust plans as needed to stay within budget and achieve financial goals for Larry Jeffers race cars. Steps to customize the spreadsheet. Locate and open the template. Search for Monthly Budget Spreadsheet in Google Sheets or under Personal in the template gallery. Start with a clean slate. Rename the spreadsheet to avoid confusion, for example, January 2023 budget. Delete the sample amounts in the transactions and summary sheets. Keep rows for future transactions. Add more rows to both sheets if needed, 1,000 for transactions, 1,000 for summary expenses. Customize a sample monthly budget. Set the starting balance in the summary sheet to 0. Delete the sample transactions for rent and paycheck. Add a new sheet named Fixed Expenses to list fixed monthly costs, for example, house payment, phone bill. In the summary sheet, change the first expense category to Fixed Expenses and enter the total amount from the Fixed Expenses sheet. Rename the expense and income categories in the summary sheet, up to row 41, as needed. To add more expense categories, highlight the last expense row, for example, row 41. Drag the blue handle down to duplicate the row, for example, add 9 rows. Update the data validation rule in the category drop-down menu to include the new rows. Set the range to match the last row number in the summary sheet. Make a copy for monthly use. Go to File, greater than Make a Copy and rename the copy for the upcoming month, for example, February 2023 budget. Plan spending and track expenses. Enter planned spending amounts in the planned column of the summary sheet, expenses side. Enter income estimates in the income side of the summary sheet. Track daily expenses throughout the month using the transactions sheet. Enter the date, amount, description, and category for each transaction. The spreadsheet will automatically update the actual column in the summary sheet to reflect your spending. Additional tips: use the Google Sheets mobile app to track your expenses on the go. Steps to create a budget spreadsheet. Create the spreadsheet. Title the spreadsheet Final Tracker. Create separate sheets for income, fixed expenses, other expenses, and lists, for expense categories. Income sheet. List income sources, for example, paycheck, and planned amounts. Use formulas to automatically populate future income dates, for example, bi-weekly paychecks. Fixed expenses sheet. List fixed monthly costs, for example, rent, Mortgage. Include dates and categories for each expense. Use formulas to automatically populate future dates. Other expenses sheet. List non-monthly expenses, for example, eating out. Include dates and categories for each expense. Lists sheet. Create a list of all expense categories. Use drop-down menus for expense categories in fixed expenses and other expenses sheets. Use a data validation tool to create drop-down menus for selecting expense categories. Formula in final tracker sheet. This formula combines income, fixed expenses, and other expenses into a single page, sorted by date. You can find the exact formula in the video description. Running balance. Add a running balance column to the final tracker sheet to see how your balance changes over time. Use a formula to calculate the running balance, previous balance plus income, expenses. Conditional formatting. Use conditional formatting to highlight cells in the running balance column that fall below a certain amount, for example, $500. Test the budget. Add a potential expense, for example, boat, to the other expenses sheet and see how it affects your future balance. Plan savings. Based on your budget, decide on a fixed amount to transfer to savings regularly, for example, bi-weekly. Adjust expense amounts or savings amounts to avoid going into negative balance. Keep it updated. Regularly update your budget with actual expenses throughout the year. Mark expenses as complete in the sheets to reflect what has been paid. Adjust expense amounts in the sheets if they differ from planned amounts. Maintaining a project budget. Maintaining a project budget. Key points. Regularly monitoring your budget helps ensure your plans are being followed financially and operationally. Milestones are project checkpoints where progress is reviewed and the budget can be revisited. Cost control is proactively managing your budget to minimize variances from the plan. Establish a sign-off plan for contractor timesheets, invoices, and any budget changes. Stakeholders should approve new costs or items that fall outside the project scope or haven't been pre-approved. Budget misses are likely to happen. Collaborate with stakeholders to define acceptable limits for cost overruns. Going under budget can indicate poor initial estimation or missed opportunities for improvement. The goal is to effectively manage the budget throughout the project, considering both underspending and overspending risks. Additional notes: fixed contracts typically involve payments at milestones, while time and materials contracts are paid monthly based on work done. Regularly revisiting budget forecasts and estimates helps prevent surprises and the need for additional funding requests. When is a good time to review the project budget and identify if you need to make any changes? A. After a retrospective. B. After the initiation phase. C. After you meet a milestone. D. After speaking with the project sponsor. The best answer is C. After you meet a milestone. Correct. Milestones can act as checkpoints for budget management and payment. Here's why the other options are not the best fit. A. After a retrospective. While a retrospective is a good time to reflect on the project and identify areas for improvement, it typically happens after the project is complete. Budget reviews should be done more frequently throughout the project lifecycle. B. After the initiation phase. The initiation phase is the beginning of the project when the project charter and scope statement are created. While the initial budget is set during this phase, it's important to review and potentially adjust it as the project progresses. D. After speaking with the project sponsor. While it's important to communicate with the project sponsor about budget changes, there's no need to wait for a specific conversation to trigger a review. Regular reviews help identify potential issues before they become significant. Milestones are key checkpoints in a project that signify the completion of a major deliverable or phase. Reviewing the budget at these milestones allows you to assess progress against the plan, identify any variances, and make informed decisions about potential adjustments. Maintaining Larry Jeffers Race Cars Project Budget, a nitty-gritty scenario approach. Here's a deeper dive into how Larry Jeffers Race Cars can manage their project budget using specific scenarios with measurable details. Scenario 1, Engine Upgrade for Car Number 22, Stepping Up Performance. Planned budget, $10,000, Parts, $8,000, Labor, $2,000. Milestone, completion of engine installation and dyno testing for performance verification. Budget review at milestone. During the dyno test, Larry Jeffers Race Cars discovers the engine produces less horsepower than anticipated. They diagnose a faulty camshaft, affecting overall performance. Cost control action. Larry Jeffers Race Cars explore two options. Option 1, stay on budget, source a compatible standard camshaft within the remaining parts budget, $8,000. This might result in 5 horsepower less than the original target. Option 2, increased performance, upgrade to a high-performance camshaft for an additional $2,500, achieving the desired target horsepower. Stakeholder approval. Larry Jeffers Race Cars present both options to the team owner, project sponsor. They consider the trade-offs between staying within budget and achieving optimal performance. The team owner approves option 2, prioritizing reaching the target horsepower for upcoming races. The revised budget becomes $12,500, parts, $10,500, labor, $2,000. Lesson learned, include a 5 to 10% buffer in the parts budget, around $800 $1,600 in this case, to account for unforeseen component compatibility issues or performance shortfalls. Scenario 2, attending a race event, milestone payment, dealing with delays contract, time and materials, TM, with a racing team transporter company. Milestone payment, $5,200 due upon arrival at the Atlanta racetrack, 750-mile journey. Monitoring progress. Larry Jeffers Race Cars utilize a GPS tracking system that monitors the transporter's progress. They compare it to the estimated travel time, approximately 15 hours, with buffer time for rest stops. Cost control action. Larry Jeffers Race Cars notice a significant delay on the GPS tracker. They contact the transporter company to understand the cause. Communication and replanning. The transporter company informs Larry Jeffers Race Cars that an unexpected traffic accident has caused a major highway closure, adding an estimated 4 hours to the travel time. To minimize the impact, Larry Jeffers Race Cars explore options. Option 1, minimize delay cost, negotiate a revised arrival time with the racetrack for an additional $800 late entry fee. This avoids the full $5,200 milestone payment until they arrive. Option 2, expedite delivery. Explore alternative routes with the transporter company, potentially incurring additional fuel costs, estimated $300, to arrive on time for the original milestone. Larry Jeffers Race Cars choose option 1 considering the significant cost difference. The revised milestone payment becomes $4,400 upon arrival, with the remaining $800 paid as a late entry fee. Lesson learned, factor potential delays, weather, traffic accidents, into travel time estimations when using TM contracts. Develop contingency plans to minimize cost impacts due to unforeseen circumstances. Scenario 3, project completion, budget analysis. Every penny counts. Planned budget, $100,000 for the entire project, car number 22 engine upgrade, actual costs, $97,235, parts, $92,735, labor, $4,500. Under budget analysis, Larry Jeffers Race Cars achieved a positive variance of $2,765. They analyze the reasons for coming in under budget: efficient parts sourcing through bulk discounts with their primary supplier. Scenario 1, utilizing a junior mechanic for some of the labor tasks under close supervision. Scenario 3, avoiding late fees at the racetrack. Scenario 2, future improvements. While under budget is positive, Larry Jeffers Race Cars analyze if the saved amount could be better utilized. Invest in additional dyno tuning sessions to further optimize engine performance. Allocate the funds for preventative maintenance on other race cars. Lesson learned, conduct regular budget reviews throughout the project to identify opportunities for cost savings without sacrificing quality or project goals. Utilize these savings for strategic improvements within the racing team's operations. These scenarios showcase monitoring progress at milestones and adapting the budget as needed. Scenario 1-2, implementing cost controls to minimize variances from the plan. Scenario 1-2-3, collaborating with stakeholders, team owner, to approve changes within acceptable limits. Scenario 1-2, analyzing both under-budget and over-budget situations to improve future project budgeting. Scenario 1-2-3, by effectively applying these practices, Larry Jeffers Race Cars can ensure their project stays on track financially and achieves its goals. Here are some additional points to consider. Utilizing project management software. Implementing project management software can streamline budget tracking, automate calculations, and generate reports for better financial visibility. Standardizing processes. Establishing standardized processes for parts procurement, labor estimates, and travel planning can improve cost predictability. Building a buffer, as seen in Scenario 1, including a buffer in the budget can provide wiggle room for unforeseen circumstances. By incorporating these additional elements, Larry Jeffers race cars can further strengthen their project budget management and optimize their financial performance across their racing endeavors. Kim, a producer at a mobile gaming company, is excited to launch the company's first mobile game in February. Kim clearly maps out the tasks and schedule for each of the team's developers. She considers working days and her commitments on other projects. Kim realizes that in mid-December she did not account for the company's mandatory 2-week holiday shutdown in her schedule. It is too late to do anything, so she flags it to her manager and waits for the shutdown to happen. Did this project manager implement effective risk management and most likely stay under budget? B. Number. Correct. Once Kim identifies a risk, she should proactively work to manage that risk. While flagging it to a manager is a good first step, she needs to take additional steps. In this situation, a stronger risk management solution would be to flag to her manager and any relevant stakeholders and team members who need to be informed about the risk. Once flagged, she should bring a plan to them on how to manage that risk. Kim might request 2 extra people to help her work on the launch or hire a contractor which is not bound by the 2-week company shutdown to make up the difference. She could also recommend delaying the launch date. Kim should bring these proposals and options to her team and stakeholders and align on a solution to the risk. Kim did not implement effective risk management in this scenario. Here's why. Missed risk identification. Kim overlooked a significant risk, the company's holiday shutdown. This could potentially delay the project timeline and impact the budget. Lack of proactive planning. Kim didn't consider the shutdown while creating the schedule, leading to a reactive approach, flagging it to her manager, instead of a proactive one, adjusting the schedule beforehand. These factors suggest the project might not stay under budget or meet the February launch date. Introduction to budgeting terms. Larry Jeffers race cars, budgeting term examples. Cash flow. Larry Jeffers race cars, LJRC, is building a new race car for the upcoming season. Their total project budget is $325,000. They received an initial sponsee contribution of $150,000, inflow, and have identified the following expenses. Outflow, engine, $85,000. This is a high-performance engine expected to last 3 seasons. Chassis, $60,000. This is a lightweight, custom-built chassis. Aerodynamics package, $45,000. This is a cutting-edge aerodynamic package designed to increase downforce. Labor, $40,000. Spread over 5 months at $8,000 per month. Materials, $35,000. Spread over 5 months at $7,000 per month. LJRC needs to carefully monitor their cash flow throughout the project. They currently have $65,000 remaining after the engine purchase, $150,000, $85,000. As the chassis, aerodynamics package, and labor costs are paid, the cash flow will continue to decrease. It's important to ensure enough remains to cover material purchases and any unexpected costs throughout the remaining project phases. LJRC can create a cash flow forecast to visualize their cash flow over time. This will help them identify potential shortfalls and make adjustments as needed. For example, they might negotiate payment terms with vendors to delay some outflow or secure additional sponsorships to increase inflow. Capex versus OPEX. Capex, capital expenses, new engine, $85,000. This is a long-term asset expected to last several race seasons. It's a capital expense. New chassis, $60,000. Similar to the engine, the chassis is a long-term asset and classified as a capex. OPEX, operating expenses, labor, $40,000. The wages paid to the crew building the car are short-term costs necessary for the day-to-day operations of this project. They are classified as OPEX. Materials, $35,000. Items like high-strength nuts, bolts, and lightweight composites are consumed during the project and are considered operating expenses. Contingency reserves. LJRC identified a risk of a parts shortage due to supply chain issues, specifically for the aerodynamic package. They set aside a contingency reserve of $15,000 to cover potential cost increases if they need to find alternative parts or redesign the package. Management reserves. LJRC acknowledges there may be unforeseen risks during the project build. They set aside a management reserve of 7.5% of the total budget, $325,000. Which translates to $24,375. This reserve can be used to address unexpected issues not previously identified. Scenario: gearbox failure during a test run, the gearbox malfunctions. LJRC diagnoses a faulty component that requires a complete gearbox replacement. A replacement gearbox costs $12,000. Since this was an unforeseen risk, LJRC can tap into their contingency reserves. They will have $3,000 remaining in contingency reserves, $15,000, $12,000, to cover potential cost increases for other parts. LJRC can also consider reallocating funds from other expense categories if necessary. For example, they might reduce material costs by finding alternative materials that meet their specifications but are slightly less expensive. By understanding and applying these budgeting terms, Larry Jeffers race cars can effectively manage their project finances, mitigate risks, and ensure they have a competitive race car ready for the upcoming season, staying within their total project budget of $325,000. Budgeting terms summary. Cash flow, the movement of money into and out of your project. It's crucial to monitor cash flow to ensure enough funding exists to complete the project. CapEx, capital expenses, major, upfront expenses for long-term assets like buildings, equipment, or vehicles. They are an investment expected to benefit the company in the future. OPEX, operating expenses, short-term expenses needed for daily operations like wages, rent, and utilities. They are often recurring costs. Contingency reserves, funds set aside to cover identified project risks and unexpected cost increases. Management reserves, a percentage of the total project budget used to address unforeseen risks not identified during planning. Overcoming budgeting challenges, key points. Challenge 1, budget pre-allocation, sticking to the sponsor's vision, numbers addition, scenario. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC, secures sponsorship from Apex Auto Parts for the upcoming season. Apex allocates a predetermined budget of $150,000 for car upgrades across their two race cars, car number 22 and car number 43. LJRC needs to optimize this budget while delivering upgrades that meet Apex's goals. Increased performance. Apex targets a 30 horsepower gain for car number 22 to be more competitive. Brand visibility. They want prominent logo placement on both cars, with additional branding opportunities on car number 43 for increased exposure. Solution. Collaborative planning. LJRC meets with Apex to discuss their vision. They present upgrade options with performance data and estimated costs. Car number 22, lead race car, engine performance package, plus $8,500 for parts, plus $2,000 for labor, plus $1,500 for dyno tuning, targeting 32 horsepower gain, exceeding Apex's target. Upgraded aerodynamic package, plus $4,000 for parts, plus $1,000 for labor, for improved handling. Car number 43, aerodynamic package focused on downforce and stability, plus $5,000 for parts, plus $1,500 for labor, to enhance brand visibility on corners. Prioritized deliverables. Based on discussions, LJRC prioritizes upgrades to stay within the $75,000 budget per car. Car number 22, engine performance package, confirmed. Aerodynamic package, confirmed. Car number 43, aerodynamic package, confirmed. They propose additional high-visibility branding options for Apex on car number 43, for example, hood scoop decals, rear wing end plates, at no additional cost. Detailed cost tracking. LJRC implements a project management software to track expenses against the budget throughout the upgrade process. They regularly review spending and communicate any minor variances to Apex, ensuring transparency. Challenge 2, inaccurate TCO calculation, the hidden costs of new technology, numbers addition, scenario. LJRC decides to implement a Motec Data Acquisition System, DAS, to collect and analyze real-time race car performance data. The initial purchase price of the DAS system is $12,000. Solution. Considering TCO, LJRC goes beyond the upfront cost and factors in additional expenses associated with the DAS system. Software licensing. The Motec software requires a yearly subscription for advanced data analysis features, $3,600 per year. Training. Race engineers need a 2-day training course to operate and interpret the DAS data effectively, $1,200. Data storage. Storing a year's worth of race data is estimated at 200 gigabytes, incurring cloud storage fees, $240 per year. Revised budget. By considering the TCO, LJRC revises their budget for the DAS system to $17,040, including upfront cost, software subscription for the first year, training, and estimated data storage. Challenge 3, Scope Creep, managing feature requests mid-season. Numbers addition. Scenario: mid-season, a new sponsor, Nitro Energy Drinks, expresses interest in branding on car number 43. They request prominent logo placement on the car's front fender, which wasn't part of the original agreement. Solution: impact assessment. LJRC assesses the impact. While Nitro's offer is attractive, modifying the car's pre-painted livery with additional decals requires repainting the front fender, $800. Cost estimation. LJRC estimates the cost of repainting the fender to accommodate Nitro's branding request. Win-win negotiation. LJRC negotiates with Nitro, considering the additional cost and potential impact on existing sponsor placements. They propose alternative solutions like increasing the size of Nitro's logo on the car's door, already included in the agreement, at no extra cost. This provides Nitro with more prominent branding while minimizing modifications to the car's livery. Budget reallocation avoided. By proposing alternative solutions, LJRC avoids exceeding the budget for car number 43. They can maintain the original budget allocation for race car maintenance and spare parts. These scenarios showcase how Larry Jeffers race cars can overcome common budgeting challenges with a data-driven and collaborative approach. By clearly defining project scope, considering the total cost of ownership, and proactively managing scope creep, Larry Jeffers race cars can ensure their projects stay on budget while achieving their racing goals. Here are some additional takeaways. Utilize project management tools. Implementing project management software with features like cost tracking, budget variance analysis, and communication tools can streamline budgeting processes and improve collaboration with stakeholders. Develop a culture of cost awareness. Encourage a team environment where everyone is mindful of costs. This can involve involving team members in budget discussions and identifying cost-saving opportunities. Conduct regular budget reviews. Schedule regular project reviews to assess progress against the budget and identify potential areas for cost adjustments. This allows for proactive decision-making to stay on track financially. Maintain a buffer. Include a small buffer, around 5 to 10%, in the initial budget to account for unforeseen circumstances. This provides some flexibility to manage minor cost overruns without derailing the project. By incorporating these strategies, Larry Jeffers race cars can gain a competitive edge by optimizing their budgets and maximizing their return on investment across their racing endeavors. Challenge 1. Budget pre-allocation. Scenario: budget is set before the project scope is finalized. Solution: work with the client to set realistic expectations on deliverables within the budget. Monitor expenses against the pre-allocated budget throughout the project. Track both fixed costs, milestone-based payments, and time materials costs, monthly, based on work hours. Challenge 2. Inaccurate TCO calculation. TCO, total cost of ownership, considers all expenses associated with a resource over its lifetime, not just upfront costs. Example: when buying a car, TCO includes the purchase price, but also gas, maintenance, registration, etc. Budgeting for TCO includes costs like maintenance, warranties, supplies, add-on features, upgrades. Challenge 3. Scope creep. Scope creep is unplanned project growth or changes that occur after the project begins. Scope creep leads to additional work and impacts the budget. Causes of scope creep include vague project statements, undocumented project agreements, unrealistic deadlines, last-minute requests from stakeholders. Key takeaway: being aware of these common budgeting challenges can help project managers avoid and overcome them. Introduction to budgeting terms. Now that you have learned how to create a project budget, let's discuss some of the common terms you will use when you are estimating, tracking, and maintaining it. A. Cash flow. Cash flow is the inflow and outflow of cash on your project. As a project manager, this is important to understand because you need funding, cash into your project, to keep your project running. A. Cash that comes into your project allows you to maintain and compensate resources and pay invoices for materials or outside services. In some cases, a project may start out with all of the cash it will receive until the end. If this is the case, it is important to monitor your outflow to ensure that you have enough funding to complete the project. Monitoring cash flow allows you to have a reference point for your project's health. For example, if the cash flow coming into your project is lower than your outflow, you will need to adjust your budget. Planning and tracking the cash flow for your project is a key component of budget management. CAPEX and OPEX. Organizations have a number of different types of expenses, from the wages they pay their employees to the cost of materials for their products. These expenses can be organized into different categories. Two of the most common are CAPEX, capital expenses, and OPEX, operating expenses. CAPEX, capital expenses, are an organization's major, long-term, upfront expenses, such as buildings, equipment, and vehicles. They are generally for assets that the company will own and keep. The company incurs these expenses because they believe they will create a benefit for the company in the future. OPEX, operating expenses, are the short-term expenses that are required for the day-to-day tasks involved in running the company, such as wages, rent, and utilities. They are often recurring. You may need to account for both OPEX and CAPEX on your projects. For example, a major software acquisition as part of an IT project could be treated by your organization as a capital expense. The monthly wages paid to a contractor to help deploy the software would be an operating expense. It's a good idea to talk to your finance or accounting department when you start working on your project budget to see how they determine the difference between OPEX and CAPEX. This will guide you in properly allocating capital and operating expenses for your projects. Contingency reserves. Sometimes, a project hits a snag and incurs additional expenses. One way to prepare for unplanned costs is by using contingency reserves. Contingency reserves are funds added to the estimated project cost to cover identified risks. These are also referred to as buffers. To determine the amount of your contingency reserves, you will need to go through the risk management process and identify the risks that are most likely to occur. We will go into more detail on risk management later in the course, but it is important to understand that risks to your project can have an impact on your budget. Contingency reserves can also be used to cover areas where actual costs turn out to be higher than estimated costs. For example, you may estimate a certain amount for labor costs, but if a contracted worker on your team gets a raise, then the actual costs will be higher than you estimated. Management reserves. While contingency reserves are used to cover the costs of identified risks, management reserves are used to cover the costs of unidentified risks. For example, if you were managing a construction project and a meteor hit your machinery, you could use management reserves to cover the costs of the damage. Contingency reserves are an estimated amount, whereas management reserves are generally a percentage of the total cost of the project. To determine a project's management reserves, you can estimate a percentage of the budget to set aside. This estimate is typically between 5–10%, but the amount is based on the complexity of the project. A project with a more complex scope may require higher management reserves. Note that the project manager will generally need approval from the project sponsor in order to use management reserves. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, Procurement in Action. Scenario 1, Engine Procurement. Project, building a new race car for the upcoming season. Target completion date, September 1st. Procurement need, high-performance engine. Research and sourcing. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC, researches different engine manufacturers, considering factors like horsepower, reliability, cost, and lead time for delivery. They shortlist 3 vendors. Vendor A offers a top-of-the-line engine, 850 horsepower, for $100,000 with a 12-week lead time. Vendor B offers a reliable engine, 780 horsepower, for $80,000 with a 10-week lead time. Vendor C offers a good value engine, 750 horsepower, for $65,000 with an 8-week lead time. Vendor selection. LJRC considers their budget, $325,000, and desired performance level. They need the engine delivered by July 1st to meet their project timeline. Vendor B's engine offers a good balance of power and cost, aligning with their project goals. Their 10-week lead time ensures on-time delivery. Negotiation and contract. LJRC negotiates a payment schedule with Vendor B, spreading the $80,000 cost over 4 installments tied to specific project milestones, $20,000 upon contract signing, June 1st, $20,000 upon engine delivery, July 1st, $20,000 upon successful engine installation, July 15th, $20,000 upon completion of initial engine performance tests, August 1st, they finalize a contract outlining the specific engine model, including a 1-year warranty on parts and labor, delivery date, and payment terms. Scenario 2, Custom Aerodynamics Package. Project, building a new race car for the upcoming season. Target completion date, September 1st. Procurement need, cutting-edge aerodynamics package to increase downforce by a minimum of 10% compared to the previous car. Research and sourcing. LJRC researches companies with experience designing and manufacturing custom aerodynamics packages for race cars, focusing on lightweight materials and aerodynamic efficiency. They identify 2 vendors with a proven track record in exceeding downforce targets. Vendor management. LJRC works collaboratively with both vendors, providing detailed specifications for the desired downforce levels, targeting a minimum 10% improvement, weight limitations, and seamless integration with their custom-built chassis. They request quotes and technical proposals from each vendor, including material specifications, manufacturing timelines, and downforce simulations using computational fluid dynamics (CFD) software. Vendor selection. LJRC evaluates the proposals based on design innovation and potential downforce improvement, targeted 10% minimum increase, with simulated results from CFD software. Manufacturing experience, use of lightweight and high-strength materials, and quality control procedures. Quoted price, estimated at $40,000, $50,000. Lead time for design, manufacturing, and delivery, must align with overall project timeline. They select vendor based on their innovative design exceeding the 10% downforce target by 12% in CFD simulations. Vendor also uses a lightweight carbon fiber composite material to reduce overall car weight. However, their quote is slightly higher at $48,000. Contract and performance. LJRC negotiates a contract with vendor A, finalizing the design specifications, including weight limitations, downforce targets, with a 12% minimum improvement guarantee, delivery timeframe, by July 15 to allow for integration and testing, and total cost, $48,000. Throughout the manufacturing process, LJRC maintains close communication with vendor A to ensure the package meets their expectations, including weight and downforce targets. Upon delivery, LJRC inspects the aerodynamics package and conducts wind tunnel tests to verify the downforce improvement. They approve the package and make the final payment only after successful performance testing. By carefully researching, sourcing, and managing vendors, Larry Jeffers Race Cars ensures they get the high-performance engine and cutting-edge aerodynamics package needed to complete their project on time, within budget, and exceeding their performance targets. These measurable details illustrate the importance of procurement in achieving successful project outcomes. The procurement process. Understanding procurement in project management. Analogy: starting a new hobby, painting. Procurement is like getting the supplies you need to start a new hobby, such as painting. Before buying supplies, research is required. You need to decide what kind of paint, oil, watercolor, acrylic, and surface, canvas, wood, paper, to use. Procurement explained. Procurement involves obtaining all the materials, services, and supplies needed to complete a project. Vendors are individuals or businesses that provide essential goods and services. Vendor management is similar to procurement, but focuses on managing relationships with vendors who provide services or talent. Vendor management activities: researching and sourcing vendors with the specific skills or talent needed for the project. Sourcing talent involves getting estimated costs from different vendors. Using vendors for specialized skills not available within the company. The process includes sourcing vendors, getting quotes for their work, selecting the best vendors, negotiating contracts, setting deadlines, evaluating performance, ensuring payments are made, following relevant regulations, for example, Americans with Disabilities Act. Vendor management not always required. Not every project requires vendors or contractors, and therefore, vendor management. The procurement process. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, procurement process in action, agile versus traditional, project, development of a new, lightweight and aerodynamic car body for the upcoming racing season, target completion date, August 15. Scenario 1, agile procurement, custom carbon fiber body. Initiating, LJRC identifies the need for a lightweight and aerodynamic car body to improve overall race lap times by 1 second. They estimate a weight reduction of 15% compared to their current car body, which weighs 2,200 pounds, is achievable. This translates to a target weight of 1,870 pounds for the new car body. Due to their in-house expertise being focused on engine and chassis development, LJRC decides to procure the car body externally. Selecting, LJRC researches and identifies several vendors with experience in crafting custom car bodies using carbon fiber. They shortlist 2 vendors based on their portfolio, experience with race cars designed for similar tracks, LJRC races on high-speed circuits, and use of advanced materials with high strength-to-weight ratios. Contract writing. LJRC employs an agile procurement approach due to the innovative nature of the project and the need for flexibility to optimize performance. They collaborate with both shortlisted vendors, sharing initial design concepts, performance targets, 1-second lap time improvement and 15% weight reduction, and wind tunnel data from their current car body. Instead of a fixed price contract, LJRC establishes time and materials (TM) agreements with both vendors based on hourly rates, $200/hour, and estimated material costs, $10,000 per 100 pounds of carbon fiber. The contracts outline a collaborative development process with bi-weekly progress reviews, including design iterations based on wind tunnel testing and performance simulations. Material selection and weight analysis to stay within the 1,870 pounds target. LJRC reserves the right to select the vendor demonstrating the most innovative design and successful weight reduction after 2 bi-weekly review cycles. Control. LJRC assigns a project manager to work closely with both vendors throughout the development process. Bi-weekly meetings are held to review progress, discuss challenges, and incorporate feedback from test results. Payments are made bi-weekly based on time spent and materials used, with adjustments made as needed based on the evolving design. Completing. After 2 bi-weekly cycles, LJRC selects vendor based on their design exceeding the 15% weight reduction target by achieving a 17% reduction, £1,815, and showing a potential 1.2-second lap time improvement in simulations. Vendor completes the car body according to the finalized design. LJRC conducts comprehensive weight analysis, verifying the £1,815 weight, and wind tunnel testing to confirm the 1.2-second lap time improvement. They evaluate the success of the procurement process based on achieving the weight reduction target, 17% achieved, exceeding the lap time improvement target, 1.2 seconds achieved, staying within budget, and meeting the project deadline, August 15. The agile approach allowed for adjustments and improvements throughout the development process, leading to a lighter, faster car body exceeding initial expectations. Scenario 2, Traditional Procurement, Pre-built fiberglass body initiating. LJRC considers purchasing a pre-built fiberglass car body from a reputable racing parts supplier, targeting a weight reduction of at least 5% compared to their current car body. While not achieving the same level of customization as a carbon fiber body, a pre-built fiberglass body offers a quicker turnaround time and potentially lower upfront cost. Selecting. LJRC researches pre-built fiberglass car bodies from various suppliers, comparing specifications, weight, targeting at least 5% reduction from 2,200 pounds equals minimum weight of 2,090 pounds, and aerodynamic design features proven to be effective on high-speed circuits. They shortlist 2 vendors based on product quality, reputation, and delivery timelines, targeting delivery by July 1 to allow for car assembly and testing. Contract writing. LJRC employs a traditional procurement approach due to the readily available product and established specifications. They request quotes from both vendors, outlining the desired car body model, including a minimum weight requirement of 2,090 pounds, desired aerodynamic features, and delivery date, July 1. LJRC negotiates the final price and delivery terms with the chosen vendor before finalizing a fixed price contract with detailed specifications, warranties, including coverage for defects in materials and workmanship, and a guaranteed delivery date. Scenario 2, Traditional Procurement, Pre-built fiberglass body, continued, control. LJRC monitors the vendor's performance based on the agreed-upon delivery date, July 1. They track the shipment and receive notifications on its progress. Upon receiving the car body, LJRC inspects it for quality, ensuring it meets the contracted specifications, including dimensional accuracy, verified through measuring tools, weight, verified through a certified weighing scale, must be at least 2,090 pounds, aerodynamic design features, visually inspected for conformance to specifications. They also conduct a preliminary wind tunnel test to assess the aerodynamic efficiency of the pre-built body. Completing. LJRC evaluates the success of the procurement process based on receiving the car body on time, by July 1 as specified in the contract. The car body meeting the minimum weight requirement, achieving at least a 5% reduction from the original 2,200 pounds. The car body matching the contracted aerodynamic design features. The wind tunnel test results meeting expectations for performance improvement on high-speed circuits, although specific lap time improvements might be harder to predict with a pre-built body. The traditional approach ensured a clear and well-defined procurement process with minimal risks due to the readily available product. It met the deadline and weight reduction target but offered less flexibility for customization and potentially less performance improvement compared to the Agile approach. Key takeaways. These scenarios showcase how Larry Jeffers race cars can leverage both Agile and traditional procurement methods depending on the project's specific needs and requirements. Agile procurement is suitable for innovative projects with less defined requirements, allowing for flexibility and collaboration to achieve optimal performance. Traditional procurement is ideal for projects with well-defined specifications and readily available products, ensuring a clear and controlled process. Ultimately, the chosen approach should balance the need for customization, performance goals, budget constraints, and project deadlines. The procurement process. A high-level overview. The procurement process involves obtaining the necessary resources to complete a project when internal resources are insufficient. Here's a breakdown of the 5 key steps. Initiating, define the project goals. Identify external resources needed. Justify the need for procurement. Selecting, determine required supplies and vendors. Select vendors based on your needs. Contract writing, develop, review, and finalize contracts with chosen vendors. Control, manage payments to vendors. Ensure quality through logistics and requirements. Monitor adherence to the service agreement. Completing, evaluate the success of the procurement process. Agile versus traditional procurement. Agile procurement, more collaborative between project team and supplier and vendors. Emphasizes relationships with suppliers. Project team plays a larger role in identifying needs. Uses living contracts adaptable based on project evaluation. Requires flexibility from suppliers due to frequent reviews and adjustments. Reviews deliverables and incorporates feedback regularly. Traditional procurement focuses on standard contracts with clear terms and deliverables. Project manager might handle entire procurement process. Uses lengthy contracts with detailed requirements and deliverables. Offers clear work streams and deadlines for better protection. Negotiation process is trickier due to limited room for changes. Requires upfront detail and time investment during negotiation. Larry Jeffers race cars, procurement process in action with tips. Scenario, upgrading car engine, internal versus external sourcing. Initiating, LJRC identifies a need to upgrade their car engine to increase horsepower by 20%. They estimate a baseline cost of $150,000 for parts if they source them externally. During dyno testing, their current, high-performance engine produces 4,500 horsepower, HP. Their goal is to achieve 5,400 horsepower, a 20% increase. Their engineering team has expertise in engine maintenance and performance tuning, with a documented history of achieving a 5% horsepower increase through routine tuning, resulting in an estimated 4,725 horsepower. However, LJRC acknowledges that achieving a targeted 20% increase for competing at the top level of drag racing requires specialized experience beyond their in-house capabilities. Considering cost implications, a more realistic baseline cost estimate for a 20% horsepower increase on a 4,500 horsepower engine is likely in the range of $50,000 to $100,000 or more. This reflects the complexity of working with high-performance engines and the need for specialized components. The final cost can vary depending on several factors, specific engine configuration and existing components. Type and quality of high-performance parts required. Level of professional services needed, such as custom engineering or machining. Internal versus external sourcing. Internal sourcing, potential benefits, reduced costs compared to external sourcing, potential savings of $10,000 to $50,000 on parts and labor, depending on the complexity of the work. Maintains control over the rebuilding process. Potential drawbacks, increased project timeline, estimated 6 to 8 weeks due to lack of specialized experience. This could delay the racing season if not completed in time for the next major event, scheduled in 8 weeks. Higher risk of errors during the rebuild process, potentially leading to engine damage and higher overall costs. Estimated risk of 15% chance of engine damage costing an additional $15,000 for repairs at LJRC's shop, or even more if a complete rebuild becomes necessary. External sourcing, potential benefits, guaranteed 20% horsepower increase by partnering with a reputable engine builder specializing in drag racing applications similar to LJRC's car. This would achieve the targeted output of 5,400 horsepower. Faster completion timeframe, estimated 4 weeks by an experienced engine builder. This aligns better with LJRC's racing season schedule. Reduced risk of engine damage due to the vendor's expertise in building high-performance drag racing engines. Potential drawbacks: increased cost compared to internal sourcing. Engine builder quotes likely range from $50,000 to $100,000 for parts and labor. Refine requirements. LJRC analyzes the engine and identifies specific high-performance components needed to achieve the 20% horsepower increase. This refined component list allows them to request more targeted quotes from potential vendors, potentially reducing overall costs. Selecting. LJRC researches and assesses several reputable engine builders with a proven track record in drag racing. They shortlist 2 vendors based on measurable data such as achieving a minimum average of 18% horsepower increase for client drag race cars with similar engine configurations. Ability to meet LJRC's budget and timeline. Vendors provide quotes with detailed breakdowns of parts, labor costs, and guaranteed completion timelines. Experience with similar engine models and desired performance goals. Contract writing. LJRC negotiates a fixed-price contract with the chosen vendor, outlining the following: specific engine components to be upgraded. Guaranteed minimum horsepower increase of 20%, resulting in a minimum of 5,400 horsepower. Completion deadline aligned with the racing season schedule, for example, 2 weeks before the next major event. Warranty clause covering any defects in materials or workmanship for a set period, for example, 1 year. Controlling. LJRC monitors the vendor's performance by scheduling regular progress meetings to review the rebuilding process and ensure components adhere to specifications. Conducting inspections at key stages of the rebuild to verify quality standards are met. Completing. Measuring procurement success. Upon completion, LJRC performs dyno testing on the engine to verify the actual horsepower increase. They compare this to the contracted minimum of 5,400 horsepower. They also track the total project cost against the initial estimates for both internal and external sourcing scenarios. Lessons learned. Importance of accurate cost estimates. LJRC acknowledges the significant underestimation in their initial baseline cost for parts. This highlights the importance of consulting with experienced professionals in high-performance engine building to get a more realistic idea of the project cost up front. Trade-offs between internal and external sourcing. The decision between internal and external sourcing depends on various factors beyond just cost. While internal sourcing offers potential cost savings and control, the lack of specialized experience can lead to delays and potential engine damage. External sourcing provides a guaranteed performance increase, faster turnaround time, and reduced risk, but at a higher cost. Value of detailed requirements. Refining the engine component list allows LJRC to request more targeted quotes from potential vendors. This can potentially lead to cost optimization by focusing on the essential parts needed for the desired performance gain. Vendor selection criteria. LJRC emphasizes the importance of selecting a reputable engine builder with a proven track record in achieving performance goals similar to LJRC's requirements. Measurable data, ability to meet budget and timeline, and experience with specific engine models are crucial factors for vendor selection. Importance of contractual safeguards. A fixed-price contract with a guaranteed minimum horsepower increase protects LJRC from cost overruns due to unforeseen performance issues. The warranty clause ensures the vendor's accountability for defects in materials or workmanship. Continuous improvement. Documenting the entire procurement process allows LJRC to learn from their experiences. This data will be valuable for future engine upgrade projects, enabling them to make more informed decisions regarding cost estimation, sourcing strategies, and vendor selection. By carefully considering these takeaways, LJRC can optimize their procurement process for future high-performance engine upgrades, ensuring they achieve their desired performance targets within budget and schedule constraints. Procurement process tips: save time, money, and ensure project success. This breakdown offers key takeaways for each step in the procurement process: initiating, plan resource needs, identify materials, services, and supplies needed for project completion. Internal versus external sourcing, decide which items to procure internally or externally. Refine requirements, analyze outsourced items, identify unnecessary features to potentially reduce costs. Selecting, research and assess vendors, look for vendors with a reputation for quality and timely delivery. Interview potential vendors, learn more about their products, services, and processes. Consider site visits, gain first-hand experience of how vendors operate. Contract writing, pay close attention to details, scrutinize inclusions and exclusions in vendor offers. Identify cost-saving opportunities, look for items you can provide in-house, storage, equipment, labor. Legal and compliance review, ensure the contract is ethical and legal. Controlling, monitor vendor performance, regularly review the quality of work being delivered. Communicate effectively, maintain professionalism and firmness to ensure requirements are met. Build vendor relationships, positive relationships simplify adjustments and revisions. Conduct regular check-in meetings, ensure work stays on track. Completing, measure procurement success, evaluate material quality, labor contracts, and vendor relationships. Document lessons learned, capture valuable insights for future projects. Key takeaways: procurement is an iterative process, potentially repeated throughout the project lifecycle. Re-evaluation of vendors, contract terms, and lesson learned documentation is crucial for future success. Tips for the procurement process: as you have learned, procurement means obtaining all of the materials, services, and supplies required to complete the project. You have just learned about the procurement process in project management. To recap, there are 5 steps in the typical procurement process. Initiating, planning what you need to meet your project goals. Selecting, deciding which suppliers and vendors to use. Contract writing, developing, reviewing, and signing contracts. Controlling, making payments and maintaining and ensuring quality. Completing, measuring your success. Graphic with the 5 stages listed: initiating, selecting, contract writing, controlling and completing. During each step of the procurement process, there are some tips that can help you save time and money while ensuring your project's success. Tips for initiating while planning your project: figure out which materials, resources, and supplies you will need to get the job done. During this step, you will decide which items will be internally procured and which items will be externally outsourced. Once you've decided which items you need to outsource, compare each of those items' specifications, components, quality measurements, standards, and characteristics with your project's requirements. You may find that some of the items have features you don't need. If you can identify those unnecessary features, you will know exactly what you want and don't want in an item, possibly reducing your total cost. Tips for selecting: now that you have outlined what you need for your project, you need to determine vendors to source these items. Research and assess various vendors and suppliers, and try to find out if your preferred vendors have a reputation for delivering quality work on time. After you've identified your preferred vendors and suppliers, interview them to learn more about their products and services. If possible, make site visits to see exactly how each vendor runs their business in person. Tips for contract writing: contract writing requires excellent attention to detail, so pay close attention to the inclusions and exclusions in a vendor's offer. There may be some items included in the vendor's price that you can provide in-house at low or no additional cost. For example, the vendor's offer may include charges for storing materials, using certain equipment, or labor. These are all things that you may be able to provide from your organization's resources, so you can opt to save costs with the vendor on those items by using in-house materials and resources. Sometimes, the vendor may write the contract. In this case, checking carefully for clarity and accuracy ensures that you know exactly what you are getting from the vendor. Whether the contract is written by you or by the vendor, you will almost always want to consult with a legal and compliance team to ensure that everything in the contract is ethical and legal. Tips for controlling the procurement process isn't over when the contracts are signed. The next step is to ensure that the work is being done according to the terms of the contract. You will need to periodically review the performance and quality of each vendor. When communicating with vendors, remain professional but firm to ensure that all project requirements are being fulfilled and that all major milestones are being met on time and at cost. Building and maintaining a good relationship with your vendors benefits the team and the overall project. This relationship will make it easier to make adjustments and contract revisions if the need arises. Taking certain measures, like conducting regular check-in meetings, will ensure that the work is being completed according to plan. Tips for completing: in the completing step of the procurement process, you will measure the success of your procurements. Ask yourself: were the materials created good quality? Were there any issues with labor contracts? How were your relationships with vendors? During this step, it is also important to document any lessons learned. It is likely that you will be involved in another project similar to this one in the future. Take notes about how the procurement process went so you can use this information on a future project. Key takeaways: procurement is an ongoing process that can be repeated during the life cycle of a project. You may initiate the procurement process several times over if you need additional deliverables. To do so, you will likely evaluate your current vendors or select new ones if necessary. If you change vendors or contract terms, you will have to write new contracts. It is important to periodically review the quality of each vendor during the controlling phase and, once everything is finished, document the lessons you learned during the completion phase. Common Procurement Documentation. Common Procurement Documents in Action. Larry Jeffers Race Cars Scenario 1, Upgrading Car Engine, Internal versus External Sourcing, with NDAs, RFPs, and SOWs. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC, identifies a need to upgrade their car engine to increase horsepower by 20%. They estimate a baseline cost of $150,000 for parts if they source them externally. Their current, high-performance engine produces 4,500 horsepower, HP. Initiating phase, Non-Disclosure Agreement, NDA, LJRC considers partnering with a new, up-and-coming performance parts manufacturer, Alpha Engineering. Since Alpha Engineering's technology is still under development, LJRC has them sign an NDA to protect sensitive details about their car's engine configuration and performance goals before sharing any confidential information. Selecting phase, Request for Proposal, RFP, LJRC decides to explore external engine builders to achieve a guaranteed 20% horsepower increase. They issue an RFP to 3 reputable engine builders with a proven track record in drag racing applications similar to LJRC's car. The RFP details, Overview. Project objective is to increase engine horsepower by 20%, target output of 5,400 horsepower. Goals, measurable performance gain of 900 horsepower on the dyno test. Scope of work, engine rebuild with specific high-performance components to be identified by LJRC based on vendor recommendations. Milestones, completion of engine rebuild and dyno testing within 6 weeks to meet the racing season schedule. Submission requirements, detailed breakdown of parts, labor costs, and guaranteed minimum horsepower increase with warranty terms. Questions for vendors, experience with similar engine models, ability to meet the 6-week deadline, and references from past clients with comparable projects. Contracting phase, statement of work. So, after reviewing proposals, LJRC selects Apex Racing Solutions based on their competitive quote, proven record of exceeding horsepower targets in similar projects, average of 22% increase, and a strong warranty program. LJRC negotiates and finalizes a detailed SOW with Apex Racing Solutions, outlining specific tasks, disassemble current engine, identify necessary parts replacements, source and install high-performance components as agreed upon, and reassemble the engine. Deliverables, fully rebuilt and dyno-tested engine guaranteed to produce a minimum of 5,400 horsepower. Timelines, completion of all work within 6 weeks, with clearly defined milestones for key stages, for example, parts procurement by week 2, engine assembly by week 4. Acceptance criteria, successful dyno test verification of at least 5,400 horsepower output. This scenario demonstrates how LJRC leverages common procurement documents throughout the process, and NDA protects sensitive information during initial discussions with Alpha Engineering. An RFP solicits detailed proposals from qualified vendors like Apex Racing Solutions. And SOW ensures a clear agreement on the scope of work, deliverables, timelines, and acceptance criteria for the chosen vendor. Scenario 2, upgrading car telemetry system, streamlining data acquisition. With RFPs and SOWs, LJRC wants to upgrade their car's telemetry system to collect and analyze data in real time during races. This will allow them to make faster pit crew adjustments and optimize car performance. Selecting phase, request for proposal, RFP, LJRC issues an RFP to several data acquisition system vendors. The RFP outlines, overview, project goal is to implement a real-time telemetry system for capturing and analyzing race data. Goals, reduce pit crew decision-making time by 20% through real-time data access. Scope of work, system should include sensors for critical engine parameters, for example, temperature, oil pressure, tire pressure monitoring, and a user-friendly interface for displaying real-time data. Milestones, system installation and crew training to be completed within 4 weeks. Submission requirements, technical specifications of the proposed system, along with a detailed implementation plan and training program for the pit crew. Questions for vendors, experience with similar racing applications, references from past clients, and warranty coverage for the system. Contracting phase, statement of work. So, after evaluating proposals, LJRC selects Datatech Racing for their user-friendly, customizable telemetry system and proven record in Formula One racing. And SOW is established with Datatech Racing, specifying specific tasks, installation of sensors on the car, configuration of the data acquisition system, and training for the pit crew on data analysis and system operation. Common procurement documents. Non-disclosure agreement, NDA, protects confidential information within an organization. Used when working with external vendors on sensitive projects or proprietary technologies. Example, in Project Plant Pals, a new, unreleased product, vendors might sign an NDA to prevent leaks about the product before launch. Fixed document, doesn't change throughout the process. Request for proposal, RFP, solicits bids from vendors to choose the best fit for a project. Used across various departments and industries. Key sections of an RFP, overview, project purpose, problems solved, and potential benefits. Goals, measurable results to be achieved. Scope of work, project specifics and how to achieve success. Milestones, key benchmarks throughout the project. Submission requirements, how vendors should respond, format, prototypes, etc. Questions for vendors, to assess their capabilities, potential issues, cost breakdown, etc. Example, an RFP for Project Plant Pals could be used to source plant providers, ensuring best price, quality, and value. Fixed document, doesn't change throughout the process. Statement of work, sent to the chosen vendor after selection. Details the specific tasks, deliverables, and timelines for the project. Evolves as the project progresses. We'll learn more about this in the next lesson. Creating a statement of work. Creating a statement of work for Larry Jeffers' race car scenario, upgrading car aerodynamics for increased downforce, LJRC Apex Engineering. Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC, wants to improve their car's aerodynamic performance by increasing downforce to achieve faster lap times. They partner with Apex Engineering, a reputable aerodynamic components manufacturer. Statement of work. 1. Headers. Company name, Larry Jeffers Race Cars, LJRC. Project name, Aerodynamic Upgrade for Race Car, Project Downforce, Creation Date, June 18, 2024. 2. Stakeholders. Project Manager, John Snow, LJRC, Sponsor, Larry Jeffers, CEO, LJRC, Contractor, Apex Engineering, Vendor. 3. Revision Table. Version. Date. Description of revision. Author. 1.0. June 18, 2024. Initial draft. John Snow. Export to Sheets. 4. Purpose. The purpose of this project is to upgrade the aerodynamics of LJRC's race car to increase downforce and achieve a measurable improvement in lap times. The target audience for this project is the LJRC race team and engineering staff. 5. Scope. Apex Engineering will design, manufacture, and supply a front splitter, rear wing, and side skirts specifically tailored to LJRC's car model and racing specifications. LJRC will provide detailed car specifications and performance data to Apex Engineering. Apex Engineering will conduct twin tunnel testing to optimize the aerodynamic design of the components. LJRC will be responsible for the installation of the new aerodynamic components on their race car. 6. Out of scope. Fabrication and installation of any additional aerodynamic components beyond the front splitter, rear wing, and side skirts. Modifications to the car's chassis or suspension system. Transportation costs associated with delivering the aerodynamic components to LJRC. Painting or finishing of the aerodynamic components. 7. Deliverables. A set of high-quality, aerodynamically optimized front splitter, rear wing, and side skirts for LJRC's car model. Design specifications and engineering documentation for the manufactured components. A wind tunnel test report detailing the aerodynamic performance of the designed components. 8. Milestones. Milestone 1, July 15, 2024, Apex Engineering to complete the initial design of the aerodynamic components and share it with LJRC for review and approval. Milestone 2, August 1, 2024, completion of wind tunnel testing and submission of the final design and test report to LJRC. Milestone 3, August 15, 2024, delivery of the manufactured aerodynamic components to LJRC. 9. Timeline. The total project timeline is 8 weeks, starting from June 18, 2024, with the target completion date of August 15, 2024. 10. Terms and conditions. LJRC reserves the right to review and approve the design of the aerodynamic components before manufacturing. Apex Engineering will warrant the manufactured components against defects in materials and workmanship for a period of 1 year. Payment terms: LJRC will pay Apex Engineering 50% of the total project cost upon approval of the final design and the remaining 50% upon delivery and inspection of the components. 11. Payment terms. As stated in Section 10, Terms and Conditions, LJRC will pay Apex Engineering 50% of the total project cost, agreed upon amount, upon approval of the final design and the remaining 50% upon delivery and inspection of the components. This so clearly outlines the project details, deliverables, timeline, and expectations for both LJRC and Apex Engineering. By following this agreement, both parties can ensure a successful project outcome that improves LJRC's car's aerodynamic performance and lap times. Creating a statement of work, SO, and SOW is a document that outlines the details of a project agreement between a client and a vendor, contractor. It ensures all parties understand their roles and expectations. Key elements of an SOW, headers, include your company name, project name, and creation date. Stakeholders, list key people involved, such as the project manager and sponsor. Revision table, track changes made throughout the document. Purpose, clearly define the project's desired outcomes and target audience. Scope, detail the services or products provided by the vendor. Example, Project Plant Pals, provide low-maintenance desk plants to offices. Customers can order online or by catalog, with shipment to their work address. Plant types include ferns, cacti, and bonsai trees. Out of scope, clearly define what is not included in the project to avoid confusion. Example, annual reporting or custom plant orders. Deliverables, outline the tangible outputs expected from the vendor. Example, plant maintenance guides and a customer support webpage. Milestones, define key progress markers with target dates. Example, fulfill first quarter orders, deliver to top customers, launch surveys, collect and report customer feedback. Timeline, specify the total project duration and the time frame for the vendor's services. Terms and conditions, include disclaimers about potential revisions due to unforeseen circumstances. Payment terms, outline the payment schedule for the vendor. Typically, payment occurs upon delivery of goods and services. Additional points, subject matter experts, SMEs, and legal advisors may provide input during SOW creation. The SOW is a collaborative document, often undergoing multiple revisions. By following these steps, you can create a clear and comprehensive SOW that sets expectations for a successful project. What does a statement of work, SOW, describe? A. The requirements of an organization's project to be passed on to vendors. B. The agreement among parties that confidential information stays within an organization. C. The products and services a vendor or contractor will provide for the organization. The correct answer is C. The products and services a vendor or contractor will provide for the organization. Correct. The statement of work describes the products and services a vendor or contractor will provide for an organization. Beyond the organization's needs, the SOW also includes the contractor's needs and requirements to successfully perform the services. Explanation: a statement of work, SOW, outlines the specific tasks, deliverables, timelines, and acceptance criteria for a project between a client, organization, and a vendor or contractor. This matches option C, a request for proposal, RFP, solicits proposals from vendors based on the project requirements. This eliminates option A, a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, protects confidential information shared between parties. This eliminates option B. Summary of procurement support with Larry Jeffers race cars. After the finish line, procurement doesn't tender contracts. Larry Jeffers race car secured a top-notch engine from a new supplier, but the procurement process isn't over. Here's why: tracking performance. Larry Jeffers race cars implements a system to monitor the engine's performance throughout the season. This might involve performance trackers. Telemetry data tracks key metrics like horsepower, torque, and fuel efficiency every race. Quarterly business reviews. The team meets with the engine supplier every quarter to analyze the data. They discuss metrics like the number of engine parts replaced and the average time spent on engine maintenance. These meetings ensure both parties are meeting expectations. Legal support. Legal considerations are crucial for Larry Jeffers race cars. In-house legal expertise. Larry Jeffers race cars, a well-established team, has an in-house legal team that reviews all contracts with engine suppliers. This ensures the contracts comply with regulations and protect the team's interests. Reviewing every detail, the legal team meticulously reviews the contract, paying close attention to warranties, guarantees, and liability clauses. For example, the contract might specify a guaranteed number of races the engine must last without major breakdowns. Ethics and compliance. Larry Jeffers Race Cars prioritizes ethical practices. Mission statement. The team's mission statement emphasizes sportsmanship and safety. Compliance team. A dedicated ethics and compliance team ensures all parts procured, including the engine, meet safety regulations set by the Racing Association. They might require documentation proving the engine parts are sourced ethically and comply with environmental regulations. Importance of meetings. Staying informed is key. Legal and compliance briefings. The project manager ensures all team members, including engineers and pit crew, attend legal and compliance briefings. These briefings keep everyone informed about any regulations or restrictions related to the engine and its parts. Example, the case of the missing sensor during a crucial race. A faulty sensor disrupts Larry Jeffers race car's engine performance. Upon investigation, the team discovers the sensor is a counterfeit part, not meeting the specifications outlined in the contract. Consequences and the importance of legal review. Financial loss. The team incurs financial losses due to the mistrace and potential engine damage. Legal action. Larry Jeffers race car's legal team takes action against the supplier for providing a non-compliant part, potentially leading to penalties or a replacement engine. Key takeaway. Legal review of contracts and adherence to ethical and compliance regulations are essential for Larry Jeffers race car's success on and off the track.